Behind Bars continues now with the question, are Canadians tough on crime or soft on crime? Despite the Vancouver riots led by roving mobs of destructive youth, Bill C-4 remains one of the most contentious measures in the Conservative war on crime, expanding the crimes youth can be incarcerated for, as well as the time spent in custody. And Tom Brodbeck, columnist at the Winnipeg Sun, has been studying this issue closely. Hey, Tom.
Charles.
All right, let's start with youth. What's your take?
Well, I mean, it's one of the most frustrating parts of the criminal justice system, no doubt. I mean, the public really have a problem with, in cases, 15, 16, 17-year-olds who know what they're doing as much as an 18-year-old, and they often spend no time in jail for serious crimes, or a year and 6 months of probation, where adults are spending several years. I mean, it's an incredibly frustrating part of the system.
Okay, to the victim, clearly, it doesn't matter whether his son has been stabbed to death by a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old. What on earth is the government thinking? I mean, the government is made up of real people who presumably have real emotions and real families. Do they believe there's a difference between a 17 and an 18-year-old?
I think they got too consumed with this idea that there's sort of no currency in incarcerating youth, in that they don't really know what they're doing, therefore they shouldn't be held criminally responsible for their crimes, that they should be reintegrated into society. And, you know, for the kid who's stealing a magazine at the local convenience store, that there may be some merit to that. To the kid who bludgeons, seniors with a pickaxe, there's no relevance to it. The pendulum has just swung so far to one side that I think our policymakers over the years have just lost touch. They've just lost touch with Canadians and society and Canadian values in what you should do with a 16-year-old who murders or rapes or maims.
Do you think the public would appreciate it if we just simply lowered the number? I mean, 18 is the wrong number by today's standards. I'm not going to get into all the cliches about how, kids grow up faster, but they do. And so what's Tom Brodbeck's ideal number? You've written thousands and thousands and thousands of words about crime. Surely to God, this is something you think about from time to time.
A number is part of it. I mean, I'd like to see it drop to 16 right away. I mean, right off the hop. And in conjunction with a lot of other measures that need to be put in place. I mean, there are measures where youth can be sentenced as adults, but it's not used very often. Why is that? Why is it that it's up to a judge to decide whether a youth who's 17 should be sentenced as an adult or not? They should always be sentenced as an adult when they're 17, or the same as adults. You can get a driver's license when you're 16.
Tom, I don't disagree with you. Do you think if we put this to a referendum, I know we don't run the country with referenda, but for the purpose of this conversation, if we asked the people of this country, they're supposed to be the owners of this country, do you want, as far as the criminal justice system is concerned, the adult year is 16. If you're 16 and one day, you are from now on an adult. Do you think that would get the majority response, or do you think only a handful of people would want that?
I think it would get a majority response.
I think it would get an overwhelming majority.
I think it'd
be 70% plus.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Love to get some email on that. Let me go to time served, because it's the other thing that's contentious. First of all, some background. What's the time served been like, and where's it going with war on crimes legislation?
Do you mean time served prior to?
Yeah.
Prior to
because it's a scam.
The 2-for-1 stuff.
There's another issue where I never understood how there could be opposition except from defense lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the current government has changed that so that there's no longer 2-for-1 credit, and it's 1-for-1 credit in most cases. Unfortunately, there's still several years of cases that where the crime was committed prior to the change, so it's not retroactive.
So they're still eligible.
Yes. So we still see stories in the media where the guy gets 2-for-1 credit, and I get all these emails from people saying, I thought that was gone like a year ago or a year and a half ago, and there's a lag period, and eventually we'll get to a point where there's no more 2-for-1. It'll be 1-for-1, and in rare cases 1.5-for-1.
Do you have a problem with the Xbox being available to prisoners?
I have a huge problem with that.
Tell me about it.
I mean, in the first place, there's cost. You've got some families at home struggling to pay their taxes and buy their groceries and put clothes on their kids and pay for their sporting fees, who can't afford an Xbox or a PlayStation 3 or a Guitar Hero 3. But some guy sitting in Headingley Jail just outside of Winnipeg is an expert at Guitar Hero 3. I mean, games that are worth, in some cases $400 or $500. A lot of low-income to middle-income families can't even afford that, yet they're paying for it.
What else do they have access to in 60 seconds left? What else? What other toys have they got?
Well, I mean, those are the main ones that we've been talking about recently. But I mean, they seem to have no limit to exercise rooms and abilities to get tattoos and all phone privileges and all kinds of other things. Access to canteens where they can buy junk food and whatnot.
So if there is a lot of recidivism, a lot of repeat business, which there is, they're going back to a place that's relatively comfortable for them. It's home.
For a lot of them, it is. And it's not a bad place to be. It might be a bad place for you and I to be, and it would be a deterrent to go there. But I've spoken to guys who've called me up and say, well, you just go through there, and it's not a bad place to be, and we don't really know, another way of life, and it's not that hard on us in there.
Tom Brodbeck, thanks for visiting our place.
Thanks, Charles.
You're welcome anytime. Thank you very much. Tom Brodbeck of the Winnipeg Sun.